Hello and welcome to another step-by-step how to tie tutorial video. This is a pattern that I'm calling the root beer bomb. This is a fully articulated streamer. This is going to have a lot of action in the water. We have this tied on a size 2. This is a Moonlit ML091 tube fly hook. In front of that we have a 1-inch large fish joint by the Fly Tires Dungeon. In the tail we have a mix of brown bucktail and red Krystal flash. The inner portion of the rear half of the body is a Cactus Chenille root beer, of course. And for the main portion of the body, I'm using a E.P sparkle brush. It's a 3-inch, of course, root beer. Same inner body for the front half. And then I use a brown olive Montana Fly Company rubber hackle. This is a lot of action in the water. I also have up front a Dumbell Eye for a little bit of additional weight. I'm using a size 5 large 1/20th ounce, a little bit bigger than your standard medium. All right, well, let's go ahead and remove our sample, and we can secure our hook in our vise. I'm using a 140 flat wax thread, black, and as we all know, it begins with a single wrap of thread. Here we go. We'll start this up front and just lay a small little thread base and tie off or trim off our tag in there. We'll take our thread all the way to the rear, right at the tip of that bend. Excellent. All right, trim off a little bit of bucktail. I don't want it to flare out too much, but I do want some flare to it, so I'm going to go about midway down the tail and trim off a small section, which is easier done in the lap. Alright, so here's our bucktail, and like all good fur, before we apply it we must clean it, so we'll go ahead and strip out those smaller hairs, give it a couple turns with the brush, and we're going to stack this with our hair stacker. I'm going to use my large hair stacker, helicopter that in, and put that in tips down. Excellent. I don't need to go too bananas with it. Alright, so proportion wise, I need to go, that's about 1, that's about 2, and I'm going to go a little bit more than 1, well, I don't know, 2.5 hooks length or so, because we're going to add that front portion, that extra inch up front. So tie this in, a couple locking wraps. I like to bump my thread forward, and we'll tie this the rest of the way in up front. Get that full piece of hair tied in there for that nice even body. Give that excess a trim off. Alright, we'll finish locking that down. Taking our thread to the rear. Next we're going to add a few strands of Krystal flash. Here's 4 strands, I believe. 4 strands of Krystal flash. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of tease out these ends so they're not exactly identical. And this is a nice long tail, so we're going to tie this in full length on the near side. A couple of wraps. I like the way that's turning out. And I'm going to bump my thread forward a little bit and take my way back to that main point. Fold my flash over to the far side, and we'll tie that in over there. So now we got our Krystal flash nice and even on both sides, And we can just trim these excess loop off. All right, working our way from the inside out, outside in. We're going to end with our EP sparkle brush. So we're going to tie that in first. That way we get a couple nice turns right there at the rear. I'm going to take it right to almost to that tip of that wire. I'm going to fold that tip of that wire back. Make sure I get that locked in there nice and tight. Alright, next let's take our large root beer Cactus Chenille. Yum yum. Strip off some of those fibers off the end. We're going to get that right there on the back end. Nice and close. Couple of wraps. What I like to do is I'll give those two threads kind of a pull forward, which compresses the chenille material, in our case here, that Cactus Chenille, forward, or tight. Alright, let's go ahead and just trim off those, get those out of the way, and we'll park our thread all the way up front. Alright, it's as simple as wrapping our Cactus Chenille forward at this point. It's a large Cactus Chenille. We want it to be relatively dense. So we're going to just take touching wraps, working it way forward. And this just gives us a little bit of an underbody and something to kind of help. I think these shorter fibers help flare out and keep those EP fibers kind of pointed upward and outward. Gives it something to settle into and nest into. Alright, right up to the eye. Couple locking wraps. Excellent. Alright, go ahead and trim off our excess. We'll save this for the front half. Set that off to the side. Next we can bring our EP brush forward. And as we palmer this forward, we want to keep these fibers all pulled to one side. We don't want to trap down fibers as we bring it forward. So we'll just take our time. Nice amount of tension. We'll just wrap this forward. A lot of petting. Sometimes you just have to pet your fly as you build it, just to keep it clean and how you want it. You have to be mindful. I got that nice, insanely sharp, brand new hook there. Alright, working our way almost all the way up front. And just because I've got this little shorty piece here, I'm just going to keep wrapping until I run out of material, or just shy of it. Just give myself a little bit to hold on to for that final wrap. Excellent. Secure that down. A couple of wraps, and I'm going to fold that wire back and just take a couple wraps on top of that. Here we go. Here's the magic trick for these wires. A little pair of nippers. Save your scissors. If you must use scissors, go ahead and find an older pair. Maybe the pair that came with that beginner intro kit. Alright, some nice tight locking wraps there. I'm not going for beauty back there. That's going to be on the inside. I don't think the fish is going to care too much. A couple turns on the whip finish tool, and we will trim off our tying thread. And let's grab our brush and give that a quick clean. Just kind of work those fibers back and even. Again, I'm not too concerned about having a super clean head right there. I know I do have some bits and parts into that eye. Good news is I only have to thread one thing in at one time. But I do want to secure this down a little bit, and I'm going to add a little dab of Solarez Bone Dry. And we'll just work that into the thread. Off of the brush, onto the bodkin. Give us a little accuracy. There we go. Doesn't need to be too fancy. We're catching fish with this one. Alright. And we'll grab our UV light. Give that a quick zap. Alright, good enough. Alright. So now we're going to transition from our rear hook to our front hook. What I'm going to do is I got a little ball of cork, little cork ball. And right there on that tip of that hook. That way I'm not going to accidentally stick myself moving forward. Alright, nice and easy. We're going to do our fish joint, so this little tab end is on top. Work that in, and now we'll slide the hook back and grab onto that fish joint like so. Alright, continuing on and moving forward. We'll go ahead and cast on our thread. And on these fish joints, how I like to work with them is I like to build a light thread base all the way towards the rear, all the way as far back as I want it. And before I work my way forward, I'm going to come in with a little bit of gel control glue and just add a little bit in there, just enough to wet those threads. A little dab of glue, yeah, less is more. You know how we do it here. Alright. We'll just wrap into that gel glue. You saw it slide just a little bit. Now it took a bite. And we'll just lock this in place. We'll come up front. We'll do some wraps in here. You know where that's going? Nowhere, that's where. Alright, here we go. Let's add our Dumbell Eye. This again is a 1/30th ounce. I'm sorry, 1/20th ounce. This is a size 5 lead Dumbell Eye. I'm going to go right into that little crack. And I'm going to take some cross wraps. And really make sure I get this secured down. Right behind the dumbbell, or right behind the eye of that fish shank. And do some wraps up front. Here we go. You know where that's going? Nowhere. That's where. Alright. Continuing on with the fly now. Let's take our thread to the rear. We're going to add some more Krystal flash. I don't know, maybe 3-4 strands or so. Not much. Again, we're keeping this a less is more mentality. We're adding enough junk in here to begin with. Alright, I'm just going to run this the full length all the way down towards the back end. So about half the material on this side of the articulated shank. And I'll fold that over. Actually, what we can do is go under these Dumbell eyes. And we'll just tie that all the way in on the flank. Here we go. Alright, so we got some more flash on either side. We can grab our rubber hackle now. This is the olive brown rubber hackle by the Montana Fly Company. And we'll pick our ideal end here. Nice and buggy. There's the end of that wire. And I'm going to trap some of those legs in there. Incidentally, that's just the way it's going to be. Tie that in first. And now we'll come in with a little bit more root beer. Cactus Chenille. Again, I'm just going to strip a little bit off the side. Give that a little tug. Alright. Park our thread right behind the eye of the fish shank, the fish joint. I'm going to do one turn behind that hackle, behind the rubber hackle. That's how I do my woolly buggers. I like to get one full turn of my chenille before I start wrapping forward with my hackle. So we're going to do the same here on this articulated root beer bomb. Alright, we're going to get all the way up front. We're going to do a cross wrap and a cross wrap. Come underneath. We'll secure this down right behind the eye of that shank. So we worked our rubber hackle, or our chenille, up and over and into our Dumbell Eye. Theory being that the way the Dumbell Eye is positioned, hopefully we'll get this to ride in the water column, hook side up. Alright, very simple. We'll just wrap forward with this rubber hackle. And I'm not going to do touching wraps. I do want to leave a little bit of gap in between. I don't want to go too dense with the rubber hackle, but about the same portion as if I were doing any other kind of woolly bugger-ish style. Right, same thing, I want to cross wrap up and over those Dumbell eyes. Try not to trap as many of that as possible. Alright, nice and messy up front here. What do? Alright, I'll lock that down. Here we go. Alright, again, I'm going to come in with my little wire nippers. Kind of hard to get through all that little bits of rubber. And so that's cleared out of the way. We'll go ahead and do our best to build somewhat of a small head, locking all that extra stuff down. No, it's not going to get clean. It's not going to be pretty. It's the root beer bomb. Alright. Nice and easy. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to trap some rubber hackle in there. That's just the way it's going to be, I guess. Let's see if we can tease some of that out. We'll do another 1, 2, 3. 1. Well, maybe it's just going to be 1. Nice and tight. We'll give our excess thread and trim off our thread. And just to give this a little bit of a mean look, I'm going to add some red pro marker to the eye, just to darken that up, just so I don't have that bare color sticking out. And if I get a little bit onto that rubber hackle, that's just fine with me. I'm not going to be too specific about this one, but it is a fun pattern to tie, and Boy, you gotta admit it looks buggy as all get up. In fact, I'm gonna add just a little bit of red into the, just to give that a little bit of accent. Come in with my bodkin and tease out any of the rubber hackle that I might have trapped. Pretty tough stuff. It's good quality. Get it all teased out there. The buggier the better, I think, up front. Alright, now I want to clean up the eye up front just a little bit better. So I'm going to come in with my scissors and clean and trim this just a little bit. Really tough working with that rubber hackle. It kind of gets all over the place, and even if need be, you can come in with the cauterizer and just carefully, don't touch your thread. That's good enough. Alright, little dab of head cement up front. I'm going to come in with some Solarez. This is the thick hard. So it's going to go on thick and it's going to cure hard. So I'm going to get a little glob up there. I'm going to spread that around with my bodkin. Just work my way all the way around. Looks good. We'll give that a quick zap. With the UV light, get that to set. And there you have it. Get this back into the vise. We'll take off our little safety device. And there you have it. That is where the little onto that, just to keep it upright. So that's what I'm calling the root beer bomb. The articulated root beer bomb. Alright, good luck with this one. Happy tying, everybody. Tight lines. Peace.